G'day to Raf, 2 nights in a row, having a few drinks virtually. Well, looks like we might be live on the old Facebook. Chris Clone, well and truly, I reckon was the missing word there. Looking forward to this one. I think you shared that opinion with a few people there, Chris. Alrighty, well, we might kick things off now that I can see things around the various internet stations kicking into gear and having it a bit of fun. And g'day everyone, and welcome to a whiskey tasting many years in the planning. It probably looks a little bit different as we initially had planned, but we're going to have fun nonetheless. My name is Scott Fitzsimons, responsible for all the whiskey decisions here at the Oak Barrel. I'm sitting at the front of the store tonight in front of the whiskey shelves. It is my great pleasure to announce an all-star class joining us from around the world to introduce the inaugural Ardnamurchan single malt release. It's been a long journey through Ardnamurchan, and the Oak Barrel has sort of been part of that through the spirit releases and various tastings around that. And when we did a Ardnamurchan / Adelphi tasting a couple of months ago, I think we ended it by saying from here on in we need to split these up because there's too much to say on each of these topics. So very happy that this is our very first ever bespoke Ardnamurchan tasting, and I have some very special guests with me tonight. Alex Bruce, Managing Director, Connal Mackenzie, Sales Director from the Ardnamurchan Distillery, and Ben Barron, our long-suffering importer, who we have to thank for getting all of these into the country, the little tasting packs and the very small allocation of this at great expense, coming by air rather than by sea. If it was by sea, it would be here in about June next year. So big thank you to everyone. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you everyone in the Zoom, everyone watching on the Facebook. I'll be monitoring out to feed questions to the team here. But gentlemen, how are we doing?
Yeah, good, thank you. Very good, very good. It's 9 a.m. here, so we're looking forward to getting torn in and having a chat through Ardnamurchan. And it's a balmy, probably -1 up in the Highlands. I don't know about you, Alex. What did you say it was?
No, we're tropical down here. It's beautiful sunshine.
2 degrees, I think.
And I normally say for these ones, it's 7 or 8 o'clock here. It's 8 o'clock at the moment. It's sort of like 8 or 9 a.m. in the morning over there. That we've woken them up, but we haven't tonight because I know Alex has been awake since about 4 a.m. And has his fair share of Alex branded Marmite / Vegemite that he's been scoffing down in anticipation of this. And I do have to ask Connal a question as well. Very Australian question is just how many wheat bix did you have this morning?
Wheat bix or Weetabix?
Wheat bix.
It's Weetabix over here, pal. We've got an A in our Weetabix. No wheat bix. Slice of toast and marmalade for me. Very boring, I'm afraid.
Yeah. You'll never make the Australian cricket team like that. You need 8 wheat bix at least if you want to play professional sport in Australia. That's how we do it. But I'm going to throw to you guys. Obviously, we've spoken about this this release, and we do have 4 whiskies. If you're lucky enough to get one of the tasting packs, which I will just reach over and grab, there's 4 whiskies in there that we're going to be talking through tonight. This is one that we would probably advise because we're going through the inaugural release and then 3 cask samples. So one that you probably want to pour now if possible. So I'm actually going to quickly post in the Facebook and the Zoom chat just the order of tonight's casks. And it is, you just have to put your glasses on a little bit because right on the back of the bottles here is the cask numbers. So the AD, that's going to be the single cask, but then we're going 364, 371, and then 670. So probably a good idea to pour a little bit of them into a glass if you've got 4 glasses in front of you. We are working on 50 ml bottles here. If we were doing this in person, it would be 15 ml pours. So don't feel like you need to pour the whole thing in. There's plenty to go. And as always, if you do pour all of it and drink it all, please get an Uber from your living room to your bedroom tonight. Please do not drive. You're over the limit. So while I'm doing that and starting to pour mine out, 3 months ago we were chatting and everything was leading up to the launch. The launch has now happened, and congratulations. Do you want to talk us exactly how you guys are feeling at the moment? Is it excitement? Is it relief? Is it, what is that cocktail of emotions?
Exhausted.
Yeah, no, it's been a busy year. It's been a busy year, as you all know. I'll let you take this one, Alex.
No, I mean, one thing I've been asked recently, but also right back at the beginning, is what is the goal? What's your dream? And I suppose we had two. One was to create or let nature create this very unique West Highland style of whiskey, which I'm certainly confident that we have. And the second one was to finally see a bottle of Ardnamurchan on the shelf in a shop. Unfortunately, that we haven't yet succeeded in doing, because it seems to be selling too quickly, which is great. And I'm really delighted that people are buying and opening their bottles, which is what they're designed for. We've priced it accordingly. There's more on the way. There's plenty of it. So yeah, we're just trying to stop too much of it sitting in auctions and going for stupid prices. So thanks to everyone who has bought one and opened it.
Yeah, no, I'll just add to that by saying, yeah, it's been a strange year. The last sort of real tasting we did was with yourself, Scott, and we've been doing these virtual ones ever since. But yeah, it's been to launch a brand in such a strange year. It's been certainly an experience, and yeah, Alex and I have been pretty much full on since lockdown, and yeah, I'm actually on holiday this week, so it's good that I'm taking some time out. But no, listen, I wouldn't change this for the world. Obviously, chatting to my favourite people in the whiskey industry, especially over the other side. So I've got a small video to share, Scotty. Should we give it a bash, see if it works?
Yeah. And we have a couple of people asking. There's going to be a slideshow coming up, and there will be the order written down there, which might be a little bit clearer than my text. So that's coming. A quick g'day to Whisky is My Jam, to Todd Pointer, to Crafty Fields, all watching on the Facebook there, and Matt Bailey, who says Ben and Alex and Connal, they're legends. That Scott bloke is, and I'm going to paraphrase here, is even more of a legend than the three of them. Might be taking the piss a little bit there, but that's, I think, how it was spelled.
I'm sure you got the meaning of paraphrase quite right there.
Yeah.
Right, we'll give this a bash. I'll see if I can get this. This should work. I'm hoping. Try once more. Yep, there we go. we go. All very dramatic. There we are.
There is something to be said for like these sights and sounds of a distillery, you know, because often if you visit, particularly in Scotland, as an Australian, you go with a tour guide and you sort of go through and you point out and you have discussions. But there is something very special about being a distillery by yourself and just feeling it and hearing it without just seeing the machines and where things were. And I think that was very hypnotic, that video. Thank you very much.
You're most welcome. We'll get this up and running. Hopefully this will work.
The smell as well is one of the most evocative. I mean, now that we've been really getting stuck into these into the warehouses to sample casks for certainly for batch 1, which we did in July, and now batch 2, which we've just come down from the distillery, selecting casks. Different times of year, you walk into the upper warehouse, number 1, where Connal was in the video, and the temperature and the alcohol are so different. I mean, in the summer, you get literally knocked back as you open the door, and in the winter, it's much warmer outside. So yeah, smell is a massive thing when you're walking around.
Can you guys see that on the screen, the order, yeah?
Yep. So so the AD 09 2001, then 364 371 670. If you forget that at any point, you can send me a private message on the Facebook or in the Zoom, and I can remind you of that one. But whiskies that are best to breathe. So if you do have the glassware, it's highly suggested that we pour these out while we go through the story.
Cool. Fantastic. So I think there'll be some thirsty people around. So we'll get straight into the first whiskey, but I'll tell you a wee bit about it first. So yeah, this is our. I'm not going to use the word inaugural, but it is our first release. I mean, it's a combination of 65% ex-bourbon barrels, 35% ex-sherry casks, so hogsheads and butts have gone in here, PX and Oloroso. So thankfully for us, it's pretty much a makeup of what we do on a yearly basis at the distillery cask-wise. And it's a 50-50 split, essentially, of peated and unpeated malt. So again, we do 6 months of each at the distillery. So we're quite delighted how it's all come together. Because the truth is, we didn't actually know how it was going to come together. After we were allowed out to play again, after lockdown here in the UK, we jammed our cars and we went straight to the peninsula. And Alex and I basically spent 2 weeks locked in the warehouses. And it was an interesting time. There was a lot to do. Hundreds of casks nosed, sampled, and we pretty much put it together there, Alex, didn't we? We basically put 3 samples together, or 3 potential single malts, and we put them under the nose of people that we know in the industry, the production team at Ardnamurchan, Mr. Charles McLean, Mr. Dave Broom, and thankfully, we all settled on what's in your glass now, which is the AD 092001. And quite typically, that's the batch. Basically, that's our batch date. So September 2020 and 01. That 01 will reset back to 01 for each year. So the next batch is going to look like AD 01211. And we'll just batch it per year. So yeah, bottled at 46.8% alcohol for the only reason of flavour. And what else can I say about it? Yes, it comes with the packaging. It comes with the cardboards. It's 100% waste recycled paper. So we actually weren't looking at doing a box, but we felt that we almost couldn't get away with not doing it. So we wanted to be as eco-friendly as possible. So it's basically the insert of a loo roll, and I think we're the first people in the Scotch whisky industry to do that. And yeah, Alex, have you got anything else to add to the to Ardnamurchan single malt?
Yeah, I mean, just going back to what you said about being locked in the warehouses for 2 weeks. I mean, over the last 6.5 years, we've obviously been monitoring random stock. We just go and sample a cask here and there and just see how it's coming on. And certainly in the last 2 years, we've noticed a huge difference in particular in the ex-bourbon casks from 2015. And what was amazing back in July when we started looking at row on row, so the first time we'd actually gone in and just sampled everything on every stove, if you like, was seeing the consistency. And that was one of the two reasons for waiting 6.5 years before releasing the first whiskey. It wasn't just about the flavor and wanting to get that to a level that we really enjoyed, but it was also about what's happening next. So getting that consistency so we can just keep going. And I'm delighted to say, having now done the same again with batch 2, we knew where to go, and we found so much consistency of flavor and quality. So yeah, it's looking great going forward. The way we're going to do it is just increase the batch sizes bit by bit. So this one is a 16,000 bottle run. To be honest, it was a bit of a nightmare because we had no facilities here where I'm talking from, which is our bottling warehouse in Fife. We had no new facilities for doing that kind of size batch of whiskey. But bit by bit, we're expanding this site as well. We now have an 18,000 litre vatting tank and a 400 cask rack, or racking has gone in as well. So the warehouse is already very different from what it was back in the summer. So yeah, it's looking great. We can't wait just to keep rolling this out. And as I said at the beginning, getting the bottles opened, enjoyed, and that's what they're designed for.
I mean, this is the first time I've tried this whiskey. I purposely held off to tonight to do it, and obviously I've been lucky enough to try a lot of progress reports and things over the years. And the one thing that's jumping out to me initially is just from that first sip, the texture and just the breadth of that texture. I know, Alex, you're a bit of a fan of certain distilleries that might have waxy distillery characters, and I can sort of see it. I can see a little bit of that in this as well. But I mean, this is a triumph. This is fantastic. Like, this is just such a complex whiskey, and you know, for what is going to be a core release, essentially, this isn't going to be a one-off. This is what we can, you know, in the future drink, you know, week in, week out is very, very special. So yeah, I mean, like when you've been, the two of you have been speaking about Ardnamurchan as a distillery, it was very much, we're going to make the best spirit we can and let nature do the rest.
Yeah.
What parts in this finished dram, for people who maybe haven't been to Ardnamurchan, are very much from that place and time?
Well, obviously, I mean, if you look at it, forget all the kind of marketing gimmicky, you know, that kind of stuff, and just look at it naturally, if you like. So first off, I don't know if you saw me getting absolutely soaked under the dam the other day on some social media clips. So that's where the water comes from for cooling and also sometimes for production. But the majority of the water for production comes literally out of the peat bogs on the hill. So it comes in the color of Coca-Cola. Under EU law, we sadly have to filter that color out, but the flavor remains. And that water is what we use, not just for the process, but also for reducing the spirit off the still into the cask. So between about 70% alcohol and 63.5. So that already you've got a unique flavor element going in there from the surroundings. The other big aspect that I'm a huge believer on, and I know not everyone is, but when you say let nature take over, all our warehousing we built there is designed to allow the natural environment to come in and be part of that maturation. So it's traditional Dunwich, it's earth floor, apart from the upstairs of warehouse 1. And when it's raining and the water's coming off the hill, you can literally hear this sort of deluge of water going round the warehouses, and all that moisture being soaked up and becoming part of the environment in that warehouse, and all the sea spray with the winds driving it off the Atlantic. That has to be playing a huge part in the flavor. So yeah, as you say, let nature take over. And what we come up with, someone described it the other day, and I must send them a large check for doing that. But someone described it as the love child of Talisker and Clynelish, which was right up my street, I can tell you.
So, looking for a job there, were they?
Exactly.
Possibly.
No, we'll take that any day. No, listen, I've just had quite a prompt text from our marketing and communications manager, who we've just taken on in October there, Jenny Carlson, who might be familiar name and face in the industry to some of you, but she's mentioned, just WhatsApp me saying, "Are you going to mention the blockchain this morning?" So I will mention it, because if Alex goes on, we won't get him to stop talking about it. So basically, all our single malt bottles have got a wee QR code on there. So basically, you can scan that with any smartphone, and it'll take you to a landing page which gives you as much information as you want to find out about Ardnamurchan single malt. What, fermentation times, mash, the stills, the cap points. But sort of for me, the most interesting part of it all is we basically tell you every cask that's gone into here. So we're giving you the recipe. It's right there. It's completely transparent. And yeah, we will add to this as it goes. This is just the beginnings of it. It is only going to be, we're going to put more into it as time goes. But I think as a starting point, it's a very good way for the consumer, for the drinker who wants to find out a little bit more. It's all there for you, but just a scan of a phone. And Alex, I'll just ask, could you add anything else to blockchain within 30 seconds? Yeah. Look, it's selfishly, it's a fantastic stock take system for us. The added benefit basically is that we can be extremely transparent and everyone can see what we're up to, and we're more than happy to show you that. We've got nothing to hide. So I think it's a win-win for everyone, to be honest.
Yeah, 100%. I haven't tried it on the full size bottle yet, because I'm hoping to get one in the second half of the shipment. But I did try it on some of the AD Spirit Progress releases, and it was just, for someone who gets a little bit nerdy about things, it was fascinating to know what the bloke who bottled it had for lunch that day. So it was great that you give that much depth of information.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. Alex, are you literally not going to say anything about it?
No, it's yeah, I think you've said plenty. All I would add is, yes, we are developing it. We want it to become very interactive, especially, I know we're all hoping we can get on planes again very soon next year, but this great virtual world that we've become accustomed to will be here forever, I think, and I think it's a good added benefit. And the more virtual we are, the more interaction we want through platforms like the blockchain. So yeah, once we've developed it further, you'll not only be able to scan and see all the information, but you'll be able to interact with us and us with you. So yeah, really looking forward to progressing as we move forward.
A bit of feedback coming through on the various chats. Todd Pointer, known as the Todd in circles around here, who is a budding distiller out at the Craftworks distillery, says that is a fantastic dram, and congratulations again, Todd and Crafty, on your launch of your inaugural single malt last night. But yeah, this is like, I'm a big fan of certain Campbelltown distilleries that may have launched with a white label 12-year-old has been one of my favorite go-to whiskies. A certain Isla distillery run by some English folk. This has that same DNA in there, and for me, I put Ardnamurchan in that same category of really exciting young distilleries doing things for the right reasons. I love a certain distillery north on the mainland up in a town called Thurso as well. But this is a very different proposition, and I think you've absolutely nailed that concept of you cannot produce this whiskey outside of Ardnamurchan, with the team working at Ardnamurchan. So I think it's a great use the word triumph again to you guys and the whole team for. I know it's taken a lot of work, and one question I did write down, Connal said you were locked in a warehouse while you were blending this. Was that a warehouse or a castle that you locked yourselves in? Or is just the Scottish Gaelic word for warehouse is castle?
It's all the same. Yeah, it's all the same to us.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I thought.
Just can I just say congratulations to Todd as well? I'm looking forward to tasting their whiskey. Hint, hint. Nudge, nudge.
Yeah.
Before we move on too much further, I want to bring Ben in here. How hard is it to divide up such a small release? And again, hats off to you for air freighting in some of these full-size bottles in the tasting kits, so that we can, Australia can sometimes be left behind by 6 months on these sorts of things, so we can feel involved in a launch for once.
It's a horrible job, but it's also no harder than what Connal and Alex has to do at their end as well. So, and it's getting harder and harder. But I think everybody who's all the retailers and bars are becoming more accepting that they might ask for 20 bottles and they might get 3. So.
It's one of those good problems, and there is going to be more batches of this, obviously, as we were talking about batch 2 previously. In terms of consistency between batches, is that something you're aiming for, or do you want to see a little bit of differences? Is the ABV going to stay the same, or?
Very much so. Look, we're not a massive distillery. We're a decent size, a single malt anyway. So there's bound to be a little bit of difference between each one, but we are doing everything we can to keep the core as it is, basically. If I give you an example, the makeup of batch 2, which we'll be doing next week, is more than likely going to be very similar in terms of the 50-50 unpeated peated and the 65-35 bourbon sherry. In addition to that, we actually made more of batch 1 than we bottled. I probably shouldn't be telling you this because all the people who didn't get a bottle will be now crying. But we made an extra 1,500 litres or something. I can't remember what it was. So that is in its very basic form, it's a kind of Solera system. So that is sitting in tank, awaiting batch 2 on top of it. And again, we'll keep about the same back from batch 2. So you've got that sort of starter. It's a bit like doing a sourdough. You've got that kind of starter for your next one. And it helps. And as I said, we'll grow the size of the batches. We hope to get up to about 25,000 bottles in time as we move forward.
Yeah, excellent. I mean, you guys have been at the forefront of it as much as you can have been, without being able to travel and that sort of thing. How have you felt the reaction from people, coming through? Obviously, there's a lot of bolted on Adelphi Ardnamurchan fans that were clamoring for this release. Is it what they expected? Is it different? Are they surprised by it, or do they go, no, that's exactly what we thought it was going to be? Or is it what's been the feedback?
Yeah, I think from my point of view, I think maybe some people might have, our spirit releases from 2016 to 2019 were all from first fill sherry, be it an octave, a bat, or a hogshead. And as the batches got, older, we used bigger format casks. But that was really just a test spirit, see how it performed in wood, and we were delighted with those releases. But generally speaking, I think the feedback I've had certainly has been immensely positive. In fact, I couldn't have asked for any more. And the thing that delights me is people are just cracking it open and getting into it. That's what we designed. We hopefully have got it on the shelf for a reasonable price. And there is enough of it to go around, or so we thought. But it is the first dram, so we're just working on getting the second one out as quick as we can.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I'd add to that is the one thing we've noticed, and other people have noticed as well, and the reason we asked, or Scott very kindly asked you to pour all these whiskies ahead of the tasting, is that because it's young, because it's got so much complexity in terms of that initial kind of fruit citrus hit, and then the maritime, and then the smoke, if you like, it really develops. It doesn't just develop in the glass, it develops as the oxygen takes over in the bottle as well. So I'm now almost finished I'm not going to tell you which bottle it is in terms of quantity, but I'm down to quite a low level in the bottle at the moment. And it's changed. It really has changed. And it's almost like you're seeing these different layers appearing as it opens up. And that's very exciting for me as well, because it's showing that it's got a lot of different characters or character coming through.
You're just going around the ground. So quick g'day to David Genschke. It says holla from Spain. So I don't think he has a kit in front of him, or maybe he does. Maybe he got it from, if there's a Spanish importer. But g'day to them. And I don't normally look in the YouTube comments because that can be a weird place sometimes. But I thought I'd stick my head in there because I know there's a few of you over there. But yeah, I mean, and again, at the risk of, I could drink all of this now. We might move on to something so that I don't drink it all now. If you don't have a full bottle at the moment, and this is all you've got, don't pour it out. Leave it and come back to it, because there's something to be, there's going to come again. Just as I say that, Raf, who I think has been to every Adelphi Ardnamurchan tasting held at the Oak Barrel in the past 6, 7, 8 years. Opened his full-size bottles a few days ago, and he says it's much nicer and it just keeps evolving after a day or two of opening. So I think that's testament. But yeah, stick that one behind it and come back to it.
Great. Yeah, shall we? We'll move on to Whiskey 2, Alex.
Yeah, let's go for it.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, Whiskey 2 is some of our oldest stock, if you like. Actually, it's from 2014. So our CK cask 364, distillation date 17th of November 2014. So yeah, it's from a unpeated ex-bourbon barrel, which we transferred through to what I can only describe to you as a finished whiskey, a wine finished whiskey. You can't call it champagne, but it's a 100% Chardonnay cask, essentially, barrique. I do remember Alex telling me that he had acquired the chance to buy these casks, and I must say I was questioning what he was doing, but had full trust in him, obviously. But we monitored these because we're pretty traditional at Ardnamurchan, and we've filled bourbon, ex-bourbon barrels and ex-sherry casks, and that's pretty much what we've done for the last 6 years. So when Alex gave me the call saying we've got these coming in, I was a wee bit, But listen, I'm the first one to admit it when I'm wrong, and I truly believe these barriques have added something quite special to our unpeated Ardnamurchan. It's given us a whole new sort of flavour, if you like. Bottled at 58.2 natural strength. It's like walking into a cheesecake factory for me. It really is got that delightful pastry quality, and yeah, we get 10 of these a year now. We've got that set up with Paul Lenoir, very small champagne house, not far away from a more famous house, Krug, which I'm sure you'll be aware of. And yeah, we get 10 of these a year. And the reason why we're showing this, I suppose, to the world is this is a sneak peek at maybe next March, April release. So we'll vat the other 9 together, and we'll get a limited Ardnamurchan release going, which we'll get a couple of thousand bottles out of at least. So, but I'll let Alex go into the nitty gritties of Paul Lenoir. But we are very, very excited about this.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, this actually, we have a mutual friend, someone who's a massive collector of champagne and consumer, shall we say, in the UK. And he introduced me to the family behind this champagne about 3 years ago. And then we started talking to them properly about 18 months ago. It's a very small house. There, as Connal mentioned, it's very close. It's in Le Mesnil, which is very close to Krug. It's a very similar style. The Chardonnay, or the Blanc de Blanc as it's called, is a very similar kind of biscuity style to Krug, but it's absolutely tiny, the production. They produce, in terms of, if you like, the sort of fermentation and whatever, they only produce 10 barrels worth per year. And they invite their private clients to buy one of these barrels for themselves. And not only that, that client then gets to choose the toasting level and the type of oak of each stave going into that barrique, that 225 litre cask. They then basically sign that cask over to them. It goes through that process, it goes into bottle, and finally, when it's ready, that client gets to take all the bottles that would have come from that cask. And then the casks come up to us, and we finish our whiskey for somewhere between 9 and 12 months. Now, when we bottle the first proper batch, which will be, as Connal said, probably March next year, we'll then have all those casks going back into stock as refills. So that release, if you like, should grow over time and be a combination of the first fills and then refills as well as they come on. But I don't know, Connal, have you got a picture of the warehouse? Because it's absolutely extraordinary.
Possibly. There we go.
We'll see. I mean, basically, here we go. I mean, it looks like you would expect Sigourney Weaver to be coming out of the back of this warehouse, followed by some rather horrible looking monster with a long tongue. But yeah, the casks look like they're suspended, but in fact, if you look very closely, I don't know if you've got enough definition, you'll see wires which are holding them up. These wires are motorized. So what they're actually doing is constantly turning these barrels to keep the wine on its leads or as much as possible. So it's actually a very clever system as well as being quite dramatic to look at. But these are the casks that we get every year. So yeah, really good fun. I mean, I'm not a great fan of wine finishes, but I felt there was a lot of synergy here in terms of flavor and also the whole story behind it and the family. And it's certainly, in terms of a flavor profile for the whiskey, it's pretty full on. It's been getting quite a lot of good reaction in these tastings.
Yeah, there's a few questions coming through, and I'm going to, the first one from myself is, these tasting kits, thank you very much for putting them together as well so that as many people as possible could try this first release. But in terms of the cask samples, this is obviously a preview of something coming. What inspired you? Like, what made you choose the 3 cask samples that we're tasting tonight? Was there a theme behind them?
Well, I suppose there was, because I mean, if we were in normal times, we would be going here, there, and everywhere, and we wouldn't be just rocking up to a tasting with the single malt and giving you a dram and saying, right, cheers, see you later on. We would try and take cask samples with us. We would try and show you sort of the depth of what Ardnamurchan spirit is, what the whiskey is, and what we're using there, and to give you a sort of real clear idea of what's going on. So that's why we picked this barrique was our favorite out of the lot, so we wanted to show that. We've used every cask. The next 3 casks have all been used in these packs, so 3,500 tasting packs went around the world. And then we obviously selected a bourbon barrel and a sherry cask as well. So it was just to give you an idea. That's how we would normally present a tasting, is just to give you a bit of a walkthrough. And yeah, hopefully it's worked. Alex, have you got? I mean, that's pretty much what we decided. We just wanted to get.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the champagne cask, the Chardonnay finished cask, it's a one-off, but it's showing what's coming in terms of the limited editions of Ardnamurchan that will start to kick in next year. But the other 2, the bourbon peated and the sherry peated, give you a kind of individual look at the backbone of the single malt. So it gets you can look at that kind of concentrated view of those styles. And they, along with unpeated from the same kind of casks, they form they are the makeup of the first one, the actual single malt itself. So it's a good way to kind of deconstruct it, if you like.
Yeah, I know there's 2 more to get on, but just a couple of questions coming through quickly. Chris Cleland, watching in the Zoom chat, who is a Scot living in Australia, and I think is feeling a little bit homesick hearing a couple of accents over the chat, and describes the first release as very complex and too easy to drink, but might also be applying for a job in his next comment, because just asking what methods or steps do you take to monitor casks as you're going through, and certainly this has had a big influence on the whiskey. This is a big cask, so like when you're putting whiskey to finish in a Chardonnay, sparkling Chardonnay cask, do you need to monitor that a little bit more closely than some other things in the warehousing?
Yeah, look, we haven't done a huge amount of what you might call oddballs. It's fairly traditional. It's bourbon and sherry mainly, but where we have done it, and I would include these ones, we are keeping an eye on them more closely. It also depends on the warehouse itself, because we have, if you like, 3 different levels of maturation. We've got the original warehouse number 1 divided on 2 floors. The lower floor is the same temperature year round. It's very, very damp, and we are expecting and seeing maturation taking longer in there. So we're looking at those casks less than the upper level, which are maturing much more quickly, and we need to keep on top of how they're developing. So that's that first thing. And then the second thing is, the more that we go around. So originally, when we went in July to start work on batch 1, we simply, all the casks on the top of the 3 levels, if you like, the 3 stows, we pulled the bung on those, we poured a bit into a glass, and we nosed it. If it passed the nose test, it then went into a sample bottle, and we retired to a certain castle, as you might have mentioned earlier, to look at it in more detail. And the lower levels, we drilled the top of the cask, just on the face, if you like, on the top, and took out a sample from them again, did the same thing. If it passed the nose test, it went into a sample bottle to look at further. So the more we're doing this, and I'm just going to bring blockchain very briefly back into the conversation here.
Oh, no.
Because part of the development of the blockchain stock system is every single cask will have a barcode on it, which you scan and get all that digital DNA. You get all the information, all the stock, all the production data that went into making that, what's in that cask, is then on your phone, whatever, in front of you. But what it also allows you to do is actually interact, allows you to put information back into it as well. So say I was there last week and I selected a sample from cask number 535 from 2015. I would then scan the code on the cask, and I would put in tasted on that date and just a very basic note, what we thought of it. That then goes back in there. So the next time you scan it, you don't actually even have to sample it. You've got a history of sampling information related to that cask as well. So we'll be able to monitor the hot spots, the cold spots, and every cask individually. We'll be able to map maturation.
Yep.
Sorry, Scott. No, I was just going to say, sorry, I've just noticed that there's actually, and how dare we do this, make a typo on, of course, the very famous New Zealand cake, the Lamington. I've actually done a typo there.
You missed out a G.
Just to spark a debate.
Yeah. We're actually quite good at missing out G's in tasting notes.
Yeah, no, we don't need to go down that route.
I know we got to move along quickly, but so I might press you two for yes or no answers to these questions that I'm going to present you just before we move on to the next whiskey. Crafty Field, who is makes up with Todd the creative partnership at the KPT Craftworks Distillery, is getting heaps of the cocoa powder on this whiskey. Ask a question: where is that note coming from? Is that from the malts? Question mark, or is it somewhere else? So, yes, no, not sure.
How do we answer yes or no?
Yes, no, or not sure.
No.
Okay.
I don't.
So probably coming from the cask then.
I think
so.
So.
Yes. Yep. Okay. Beautiful. And Matt Bailey, Scotch Malt Whisky Ambassador for Australia. Again, yes, no, or don't know on this one, please. Does Ardnamurchan use any virgin oak?
No.
No. Okay. Beautiful. Let's move on to the next whiskey.
Cool. There we go. Do you want me to introduce this one, Alex? And you just
go for it.
Yeah. So whiskey 3, cask number 371. This is a 5-year-old peated bourbon barrel, and I would I would say a contender for the backbone of the single malt. This is something that I remember this summer finding rows and rows of these beautiful bourbon barrel casks. They're just doing their thing wonderfully. And we've thankfully got quite a lot of them. So we've got just over 10,000 casks now in our warehouses. And this first batch of Ardnamurchan took 53 casks to put together. So there's lots of whiskey to go around. So, what we're finding from these casks are they're really starting to come into their own. They've got that beautiful smokiness. They're quite intense. I mean, this is nearly 60% alcohol, so please approach with caution. But the tasting notes here for me are pretty. I'm really happy with them because you can get that serious Bavarian smoked cheese element in there. Almost farmyardy, but more importantly, with the smoke and all the rest of it, there is fruit right behind that, and we identified pink grapefruit as being there. We're really happy with these whiskies, and I'm hoping to get I maybe shouldn't say this, but hopefully at some point next year, I would love to be able to put peated bourbon barrel batch together, because this style of whiskey really is my cup of tea. Or cup of whiskey. But yeah, Alex, anything else on peated bourbon? I know you fell in love with this whiskey.
It's my go-to kind of style. What was so exciting is that, and I think I mentioned this earlier, was how these casks have developed in the last couple of years. Because the initial stage, we weren't expecting anything. It's a bourbon barrel, normally 8 to 10 years, maybe a bit more. And 2 years ago, we suddenly we're hit by this kind of wave of banana flavor, if you like, coming from nowhere. And then coming back to them again this year. The banana was very subdued now. It's been overtaken by the kind of a much more complex style of citrus fruit and smoked cheese. And some people have described this, which I really, really like, as a kind of, as if Kulila had been forcibly removed from Islay and put on the mainland. It's got that kind of old dairy style, but without the iodine, so it's lost the antiseptic. And it's a really welcoming dram. It sums up the west coast of Scotland.
When I think there's a few people jumping on Team Connal here hoping to put a batch together. So do that from Raf. Ralph Glover 371 is fantastic, great drinking at nearly 60%. Bottle it. I think that was a demand, not a question there. Crafty Field on the Facebook, that is stunning. Question from Raf coming through: Is the peat local?
Look, it depends what you classify as local. It is Highland peat. It's not from Ardnamurchan. Without going into too much detail, we did build the basic skeleton of a floor malting when we built the distillery in 2014. I haven't yet moved that forward in terms of fitting it out, mainly because it's a cost that we can't yet cover. You need to drink more of our whiskey. We need to produce more of it before we can get to that. But the idea behind having our own maltings going forward was to do a very small amount every year from the barley, from the field, all the way through, using local resources, so peat from Ardnamurchan, etc., etc. But we have a very good maltster. We have two, in fact, but one in particular who does our peated using Highland peat, and it's not Islay, so you're not getting the iodine coming from the smoke. You're getting a much more sort of food-like smoke, that cheese and things like that. So it's not local, but it is, in terms of regions, yes, it's the same region.
The biggest thing for me, and it's a profile I haven't really seen, at least not in this prominence, from an Ardnamurchan before. It's just right at that back palate. You get that explosion of flavors, that sort of, the dairy's there, but also that saline minerally element that are all sort of, in other expressions that I've tried, but never in that intensity. And it's, it's often whiskies you get, a palate that will drive into the finish and sort of lengthen out a finish. This is almost like a third stanza or like a fourth chorus coming up, just bang right at the end there. So that is a very, very smart looking whiskey. that barrel. And yeah, more of that, please.
Yeah, no, we'll be working on it. I mean, I find, some of this without, banging on about it. I think, for a 5-year-old whiskey, it's there's a lot going on there, and I just look forward to seeing these in 3-4 years' time from now. I mean, if they're doing this now, what are they going to be like in a couple more years?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's great. As I said, we've got predominantly in our warehouses, we've got bourbon bottles, we've got our sherry hogsheads, sherry bats. But it's we did come across randomly. We were putting together batch 2 or selecting the cask. I do have a sample of which we forgot about, to be honest. Ardnamurchan in a rum cask, and the only reason it is in a rum cask is because it was an Adelphi bottling. Adelphi did a Monimusk estate 14-year-old rum a couple of years ago, and that is the cask. So we found it, and we haven't bought any parcels of rum cask yet. But I would, based on what I'm tasting on the sample, I might like to do that. And going forward, we will have a few experiments coming up, and we've got our core hopefully sorted now, so there's a little bit of room now for me to go and have a bit of a play in the cask world. Isn't that right, Alex? You say yes.
Yeah, but it's an interesting point you mentioned that about an ex-Adelphi cask, whether it's rum or whatever. But one of the hardest things, ironically, about building a new distillery and starting from scratch is getting good quality refill stock, refill casks. We can all go out there with money and buy quality first fill bourbon barrels or sherry casks or whatever, but finding a good, honest stream of quality refill casks where the provenance and what's happened before from that cask, that is hard. And we're very fortunate that Adelphi obviously supplies its own distillery with a decent chunk of refill stock where we've seen what's been provided before from that cask. And we also buy, every now and then we'll be buying from our great friends on Isla, who were mentioned earlier, who they're young enough that we know there's still life left in the casks, and we also know where they came from, and we also know the quality of the whiskey they're producing. So every year we're trying to do at least 10 to 15% filled into refill stock, because that's what's going to age or be able to age for the 15, 18, 21 or whatever years beyond the first fill stock.
Yeah, I mean, you've mentioned with the core release, the AD release, that's predominantly sherry and bourbon, and presumably that'll stay that way. You said you're not a huge fan of wine cask releases, yet you've got a sparkling Chardonnay cask, and there's no virgin oak in the warehouse so far. Rum potentially on the horizon. Is there any sort of weird or experimental casks that you're actively looking at or chasing down, or and by the same token, anything that you potentially won't touch because you think it won't sit with your spirit correctly?
Yeah, do you want to take this one?
Well, just from my point of view, I want to get a little bit. We've filled four pipes. We've done some of those. We've done some small quarter casks. Next year, I'm hoping to look at maybe different styles of sherry cask. But yeah, apart from that, Alex, you want to maybe delve in a little bit in 45 minutes? Or?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's possibly completely wrong, but I've always had this understanding that if the previous maturation has been for something which has been through the oxidization or oxidized, if you like, so a fortified wine or whatever, then I think it works quite well with whiskey, or has the potential to. I'm not such a strong believer in putting into active, what you might call table wines, as in, just standard wine, if you like. Certainly red. I think there's too much tannin coming from these casks quite often. I think it all goes back to what you want to produce. What kind of flavor do you want to produce? And because we want nature to help us, we're not trying to mask what we're doing in terms of the spirit. We're really trying to let Ardnamurchan be involved as much as possible as an area. And I think it would be a shame to mask that with really active wine casks. But look, time will tell. As Connal mentioned, we're looking at other sherry casks potentially. we know we've got the salinity, and it might be good to look at Manzanilla or things like that, where we've got a kind of a nice balance, with the salt. But it's not going to be a massive core style change. It will be the add-ons, the experimental add-ons.
Before we move on to the last whiskey, just a request here from Lush Barfly, who is a bit of a guru on all things spirits and cocktails here in Australia. Bring on some Madeira casks. So that's a request coming through.
They are in process.
Yeah. No, they are on the way. Yeah, we'll move on.
Into the final whiskey of the night. A bit of a number jump here, up to 670. So presumably something a little bit younger.
Yeah, this is a little bit younger, but it was almost 5 when we bottled this. So it was pretty much for 4 3/4. So cask number 670 actually. I remember finding this cask upper level warehouse and just being blown away by it actually. And there and then I took a sample to take to the London Whisky Show, the Whisky Exchange Show a couple of years ago. And yeah, for me, it had everything, that balance of peat and sherry, and yeah, I think it's improved from then, and I've been monitoring it ever since, really. But yeah, as you can see, we have a wee bit of fun with the nosing and tasting notes. I mean, I'll the Pope varnish, certainly the Tiger Balm. That's not me. I'll with my colleague Graham Mackay, who's joined us this year. Probably Alex, actually. I'm definitely not thinking. But certainly cloves, prunes, dried fruits, very much sea salt. And for me, it's almost like a barbecue glazed ham as well. A big gram. We're not messing about 59.5%. And yeah, it's there's a lot of these sort of sister casks that are going into the batch too. So yeah, it's again, that's a very important part of our Ardnamurchan. So yeah, it's quite cool to look at 371 and 670 side by side, because they're very similar age, and just in just different casks. So, Alex.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The only thing I would mention, and Tiger Balm kind of kicks in here in terms of why we use that description. One of the hallmark flavors that we didn't originally get on the core single malt, but has become more and more apparent as the levels in the bottles go down and the oxygen takes over, is this kind of menthol eucalyptus style. It's like in the UK we get Fox's Glacier mints. Not sure if you get them out there or not, but it's that really clean menthol, kind of nose cooling, allowing you to breathe better eucalyptus element.
We call that footy sheds when all the boys are rubbing themselves down with deep heat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's there. It's there in the core malt, and it's really there in this peated sherry cask, and it develops more and more as you let it breathe, if you like.
I mean, I think the image, I don't know whether it was yourself, Connal, that chose the image to go next to this this slide here. That pretty much sums it up. That's being transported back to a scene like that anywhere in the world is very much what this is.
Yeah, it's like it's my colleague again described that as beach bonfire. You leave your camper outside by the fireplace, and you pick up in the morning and you smell your woolly jumper. It's just got that sort of essence to it. But yeah, I think it's the image. No, I didn't pick it. That's Vinny who put this lovely presentation together. But you're right, it does take you to there in a glass. So yeah, hopefully you enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, but there's certain other island distilleries where you might be sitting in a similar position to be absolutely lashed with wind and rain coming at you. This, it's a more patient whiskey. It's a gentler experience, if that makes sense. There's this is one to sort of take your time with and sit around. It's not aggressive in any way, shape, or form. which again, I mean, the first thing I commented on the AD release was the texture, and that's something that is carried through on all of them, and I think it's probably most prominent out of the cask samples on this one. Just with everything that it's giving and the softness. I think Ref probably sums it up best. Such lovely cask samples, and I think just such a great look at the distillery and where it's been. Chris comments here. Give some rest dates for releases from others outside of the Coral range. Well, I think March potentially for some sparkling Chardonnay casks, but I mean this is probably very much a thing still that the whiskies will tell you when they're ready rather than the other way around.
Yeah, no, we've got a decent idea going forward. We're trying to do a core batch every quarter, and as I said earlier, we'll build the volume of that as we go along. Now that we've got a lovely shiny vatting tank in the warehouse. We've also got to bring on markets like America, which is completely different. It's a different size of bottle, different label specs, and all those kind of things. So next year will be, if you like, the sort of development year as we get into our schedule and feel more comfortable with being able to physically bottle it. I'm not so worried about the maturation of the stock. We know we've got plenty. We're currently concentrating on 2015 for most of the casks, with a bit of 2014. But because most of the 2014 casks are on the downstairs of the original warehouse, we're actually hoping that they'll go further. So we're letting them just bide their time. But 2015 will morph into 2016. We got some great casks in 2016 we've seen already. We are trying to keep it as a 5-year-old. We're not forcing ourselves to age. An age statement is not key to us. Certainly all that information is in the QR code in the blockchain if you want to see how old it is. But we are not going to be governed by an age. We're just going to go with what tastes good at that time. So yeah, we hope to get, as I say, 4 batches of the core malt out per year, and certainly limited release wise, we'll be looking at the champagne or the sparkling wine. We'll be looking at single casks for different markets. We'll be looking at unpeated sherries. We'll be looking at peated bourbons, all these kind of things as time goes on.
That was not a Ben and I have a question to ask. That was a yes, please, one each thing there. But lads, look, I know you've got a full day of work to do, and all that. And now, and I can say this very happily that both anyone in Sydney and my colleague here, Ben in Melbourne, we just got pubs to go to after this. So we let you go. But I want to bring Ben in here very quickly. Obviously, mate, you've been part of this journey so intimately with Adelphi now Ardnamurchan from the start. What are your thoughts of just having this in front of people and the first release of a distillery can sometimes feel like the end of the journey, but it's actually just the start of the journey. So Ben, just your thoughts on all of this. Carry on.
Yeah, absolutely. So that little video at the start almost brought a tear to my eye because Ardnamurchan's such a magical place, and we were supposed to be there in September for the launch, which didn't happen. But it was a pretty special day when I finally got a bottle in my hands. Being there since I think the first shovel went in the ground to the finished product, and I'm extremely happy with what you guys have put together. And it's very exciting to what the future holds for you guys and for all of us. Very exciting.
Thanks, Ben.
Thank you.
Yeah,
sorry, I will say that we might have put it together, but it's the credit goes to the team, Ardnamurchan, the production team who have worked on this and really taken their time with the spirit, the credit all goes to them, really. Gordon, Mackenzie, and his team. So, it's wonderful to be a part of it all.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people have bought these packs as Christmas presents. So if you are watching this back on the 24th or the 25th of December, congratulations and Merry Christmas. And hopefully the Boxing Day test is on the other screen. Well, if you're watching this on Boxing Day, as well as the screen. But I want to say on behalf of the Oak Barrel, and I think everyone in this room, and the comments are coming through here now. Just thank you so much to you guys for being who you are and doing things in the way that you do things. It's one thing to say it's so great that Adelphi bottles these whiskies that we wouldn't get to try otherwise, or that Adelphi and Ardnamurchan have built a distillery in Ardnamurchan that we wouldn't be able to try otherwise. That's obviously very important and very very relevant. But the impact that you have on our drinking experiences and our experiences through whiskey, and sometimes the ones we don't see. And last week we had Ian and Kira on from the North Star bottlers, who we're big fans of, and they again were saying, what the team at Adelphi have done for us and helped us out and got us access to stuff and shared ideas and given us tips. We don't always see the impact that people like yourselves have as it waters through and trickles down through the industry. So that was a big thing for me to sort of pull myself back and be like, okay, well, these guys, do a lot, and we probably will never be able to quantify just what they do. So I think on behalf of all of us, a big thank you, and keep doing what you're doing. And I know that Chow from Burrow Bar was tuning in a little bit before. I think he's probably behind the bar at Burrow Bar now, but we will be we'll be getting back there very soon as we can, and acting very responsibly as we always do.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Scott.
That was the last time
I'm not sure we all had our shirts on actually last time we were there. But
yes, that's a conversation not for Facebook Live.
And on that note, I'll say good night to the Facebook, that weird place that is the YouTube comment section that's about to get a little bit weirder. But thanks to everyone for tuning in across the hour, and we will see you all very shortly. And once again, thank you guys for waking up so early for us in Scotland.
Thank you. It was an absolute delight to see you all. And,
actually, no. One thing before I let you go. You guys did release an excellent video of Ardnamurchan being passed around the world when it was released, and that has confused me a little bit. Can you please confirm once and for all what is the correct pronunciation of Ardnamurchan? Because I think I heard about 100 different pronunciations in about 50 different languages and accents. So between yourselves, what is the correct pronunciation of Ardnamurchan?
Look, there's the easy version and there's the local version. That's a simple way of saying it. The easy version is Ardnamurchan, okay? Mm-hmm. And the local is Ardnamurchan. So you roll your R's, but you don't need to do that until you've had at least half a bottle. So there you go.
Yeah, just Ardnamurchan for me. I'm in the north, but if you're on the west, it is a bit more.
Excellent. Thank you for clarifying that. We will see you all very, very soon, I hope.
Cheers. Thank you.
Scott. Good to see you.